we're live. Hey guys, go ahead and let me know when you can hear me. I'm just getting my space set up here. I'm throwing fire everywhere. Jesus, I'm gonna set myself on fire. Hi Janelle. Hi Kelly. Hi everybody. Hey guys. So if you go over to Patreon, you'll be able to find our calendar. I uploaded it. I re-emailed it to you guys. So hopefully you should have that. Hi everybody on YouTube. I always forget to address YouTube. This is a Patreon video that I do every month for my Patreon community, the Cosmic Alliance. This along with others. And I release this halfway through the month on YouTube for free for everyone else. So if this is something that you've been tuning into, something that you enjoy and something that you would like to get in the beginning of the month so that you could utilize the entire calendar and work with all of the transits that come along, you can join my Patreon community. It'll be linked below, and it's available with the $5 a month tier and above. And yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead really quick and center myself with some chimes and a crown chakra sound bowl, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Hi everybody. Hi Claire. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Sorry, it's just the energy's been kind of crazy, so. All right. We are going to go ahead and jump right into the slides and into the chart. You should have your natal chart with you. If you're new, we do have a couple of new people. So hi everybody, welcome to the Alliance. If you go to the post, in addition to our calendar, which I just uploaded below, there's a PDF for you to download of the calendar. There's also an apprentice cheat sheet, which has a little breakdown of the energy of the planets, the signs, the houses, so that when you're looking at your chart, and I'm saying a whole bunch of stuff to you, you can get an idea of what's going on. So when I'm talking about Jupiter entering Pisces later this month, you're going to want to look and see, okay, she's talking about Pisces. Where is Pisces for me? Now, some people will be like, oh, I don't have Pisces because I don't have any planets there. Well, you might not have any planets there, but that area is ruled by Pisces. There is an area of your life that is governed by Pisces. All 12 signs are depicted within our natal chart. So you would go and look and see, what house does Pisces rule for me? For me, it is my 7th house of relationships, of partnerships. So I know that all this Jupiter stuff I'm going to be talking about is going to be focused on my 7th house of relationships, partnerships, and things like that. So you want to have your natal chart in front of you. You want to have those apprentice cheat sheets so you can reference them while I'm talking, so you can be like, what is this house about? Okay, it's this. You also want to have like your calendar if you have anything planned this month. going along with this will help you to kind of know like the kind of like cosmic weather of that day, like what to expect. And yeah, a pen, notebook for anything that kind of comes through. You guys know I like you to be active with this, so we're going to be active. Hi guys, Kelly says the energy has been tense. Yes, it for sure has. And I wish I could say that it's going to get better. And you know, my dog's going crazy. Squirt, if you don't stop, I'm going to have to take you out of here. So please chill. Thank you. Thank you. You guys know me, like, whenever I talk about transits, like, I'm not going to be, like, all the memes, you know? Like, yes, we have a Mercury retrograde later this month. Yes, we have a Saturn retrograde later this month. Mercury is going to be going retrograde in its home sign of Gemini, the mind. And, we are going to be feeling it, but simultaneously we're going to be having these transits that we can lean into a lot that really will help us manifest this like spiritual energy, these spiritual connections. Now those in and of themselves have dual manifestations. Whenever Neptune is in play, or Piscean energy, we can tend to go to like two different extremes, like complete just like delusions and major cult mentality. We're going to talk about that a lot tonight. Or if you're in the proper alignment and you're not ruled by any sort of like illusions or fears or secrets, and you're just in that like flow state, you can really tap into the magic and the wisdom and the like spiritual insights, psychic activations that these transits hold. And simultaneously, they'll have like a dual manifestation on our relationship. So you're probably going to be hearing a lot about how Mercury is going to be going retrograde on top of Venus and square Neptune. And how that can be, you know, negative towards communication and relationships and things like that. And while it also can have this like dual manifestation. You guys know me, and the Gemini energy this month is really going to help everybody to kind of do this thing to be able to like see both sides of a polarized energy or of like a multiple manifestation, something that has multiple manifestations, where you can kind of like lean into the like Neptunian Venusian energy and really connect on a more like spiritual level, and kind of like also like solidify it into your analytical mind, because we have a lot of things happening simultaneously in the mind and in the spiritual realm, which is what I very much associate Pleiadian energy with, is that like balance of the heart and the mind. And I think they are the star system that has the most to teach us when it comes to that, when it comes to really integrating that like masculine mind and that like unconditional love, the two things together, the identity and the we, the balancing of polarities, because they themselves have gone through that, and they're just a little bit, it's said in like UFO lore that they're just a little bit above us in their like consciousness, in their like evolution. They've just kind of passed the tests that we're like going through now. And the kicker is they did it much faster, because the star system itself, like the cluster of stars that is the Pleiades, is much, much, much younger than our star. So it kind of tells me that our evolution here on Earth has gone through a lot more falls. We're more stuck in that like karmic cycle of repeat that they've kind of broken a little bit out of, but they're karmically connected to our cycle. So their consciousness is here to help us to move forward. So that's kind of the month in a nutshell. I don't know, I kind of went on a tip, but anyway. All right, guys. I'm gonna keep my video off for this slide. I kind of went over a lot of this stuff already. We have major Pleiadian activations this month. I have a little UFO here because it just signifies that like entity consciousness, while I also have like the stars there, the Pleiadian stars there, which signifies the like pure Pleiadian cosmic consciousness. So if you notice in like the New Age realm, a lot of people, they claim to like, I channel the Pleiadians, I channel this Pleiadian entity named this, I am working with this entity or whatever. And the way that I look at it is like, if I was an alien, an extraterrestrial on another planet, and I wanted to channel Earth, you know, I wanted to channel our sun or Earth consciousness, I would not want to channel Ali or like the President of the United States or the Pope or any sort of like spiritual guru here on Earth, because that energy would be, it would have it would have that entity's perception about it. It would not be the pure cosmic energy that they can integrate, and it wouldn't be the whole. It would be a fractal, and it would be a polarized fractal of a certain perspective, because we're all here to experience different perspectives. So I wanted to have the UFO there and the stars to let you know that there's going to be like multiple things coming through. Any entity is going to have an agenda. Even the ones that are so-called here to help us still are going to have some sort of agenda, whether it's connected to just the purging of karmic ties, their own personal evolution, or something else. If you're connecting with that like lower energy, that would be like, let's say somebody visiting in a UFO, even if that person visiting is here to help, it still would not be that like highest octave that we're really trying to integrate into our consciousness, which is where the stars come in. During this month, when you are, and really this is how I work with all star systems, every single one of these that we're going to talk about here tonight, I never ever envision an entity. I never ever try to channel entity's consciousness or a being of any sort. I really focus on the star itself, because I understand that the whole entire cosmic realm is me. So somewhere in me is the Pleiades, and that is what I'm going to be trying to activate this month, is the Pleiades within me and integrating it within that cosmic consciousness that is also me. We have eclipse season this month amongst a bunch of retrogrades that are really happening in a lot of air signs, so it's going to be extremely mental. And like I had said before, the Pleiades, it falls at the ending degrees of Gemini and the beginning degrees of Taurus. No, the ending degrees of Taurus and the beginning degrees of Gemini. And it really falls right in between the mind, Gemini, and the body and the heart, Taurus. Taurus represents the body. And I'm just going to put myself here so you guys can see me, because I'm apparently talking a lot. Taurus represents the body, and Gemini represents the mind. And Taurus is also a Venus-ruled sign. It's very sensual. So not only is it the physical body and taking care of like the structure that is your body here in this realm, but it is also very heart-centered in nature, and it's that finding the balance between the two, between your consciousness, Gemini, and your physical vessel, Taurus. And Taurus is normally a very grounded energy. Right now we have Uranus there. We have squares happening to Saturn. and Uranus being activated by all the planets transiting through Taurus. So it has already been kind of like scattered. Now we're moving into Gemini season, and it is also going to be extremely scattered, and we're throwing retrogrades on top of that. So this balance between body and heart and mind is going to be very, very, very hard to integrate. Now, there is an aspect of you that has already integrated this. That Pleiades within, the Pleiades out there is already said to have started to integrate the polarities. They're said to be extremely androgynous in appearance. They have their masculine and feminine energies balanced. And that heart and mind is working in unison, in a balanced state, where they still very much have technological advancements, but also spiritual advancements. And they found that sort of like equilibrium that we kind of need to find right now in order to not fall again. And while we simultaneously have all this mental stuff happening and these retrogrades happening in these air signs, we also have Jupiter entering Pisces. Jupiter used to be the Hi Sharon. Jupiter used to be the ruling planet of Pisces before Neptune was discovered, a planet that we wouldn't have even discovered if it weren't for technology. We wouldn't know about anything past Saturn, the gatekeeper. We wouldn't know about Uranus, which was the technology we discovered, and also the awakening of consciousness. We wouldn't know about Neptune, which is that like spiritual energy. Pluto, the like death and rebirth and the power of transformation. Any of the asteroids, we wouldn't be able to integrate a lot of things into our consciousness if it weren't for technology. Jupiter entering Pisces is where he used to be the ruler of. He still co-rules it with Neptune, who is also a key player this month. And this is going to bring a kind of like touch. He's going to go in for a while, then he's going to turn retrograde next month, and then he's going to come back out and do a little bit more work in Aquarius. So the houses that are ruled by Aquarius and Pisces in your chart are really going to be feeling this Jupiter energy over the next couple of months, really expanding, bringing a lot of gifts. So this month has a lot going on, and what I'm getting at here is that there is this part of you within that's already worked through a lot of this energy and is there to kind of help guide you. Don't outsource your energy to an entity. Find it within you and lock onto that, because a lot of what's coming through this month is like opportunities to manifest magic, opportunities to unlock ancient wisdom, opportunities to rewrite timelines. So we'll get into that because I kind of went off on a tip. Let me move this over here. Sharon says, hey, lovelies, not staying, just popping on to say hi, and I love you all, and thank you, Allie. I can't wait to watch this tomorrow. No problem, love. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so real quick, if you guys are watching this on YouTube or even on Patreon, if you could just take a minute to like this video and subscribe to my channel, it helps me out a lot in the algorithm, and you guys know it's like an uphill battle for a heretic, so all the help is greatly appreciated. And then again, if you'd like to join my Patreon, it's linked below. Those of you on Patreon have this as a PDF that you can download. Those of you on YouTube can go ahead and take a screenshot now. I'll remove my face for a second. Okay, go ahead and take a screenshot because I'm going to put my face right back. Okay, so real quick, I'm just going to go over the color key, and then this is what we're going to go over when we dive into the chart. Down on the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the little color key. The first one is like the dark blue with the bright white writing. That is our moon's transits throughout the month as it connects with every single starseed point. The moon goes all the way around the zodiac throughout the month, and throughout the month it makes connections with every single starseed point. And over here in the Cosmic Alliance, we've been finding ways to try to integrate everything. And the moon, other than the earth, which is our physical earthly body, the moon is our first like psychic body. It's our first planetary body. It's the closest one to us. while the fixed stars are those farthest consciousnesses, far consciousness that we are working to integrate into our vast cosmic consciousness that is ourselves. And if we can really work to tie together the closest, you okay there, Squirt? The closest and the farthest parts of this matrix or simulation or whatever it is that we are a part of, we really can start to co-create. I've also noticed that it helps to work with this lunar energy in an ascended fashion to where you're not so ruled by the ebbs and flows of the emotional bodies, and you're more typed into the psychic bodies that the moon also governs. It's like that like high priestess energy versus like the Queen of Cups. So the blue with the white writing is the moon's transits throughout the whole month. So you'll see that down at the bottom along all the lines where there's significant alignments. The brighter blue ones are our lunations. So you'll see on the 11th we have a Taurus New Moon, and on the 26th we have our first eclipse of eclipse season, our Sagittarius lunar eclipse. Our pinks are our scheduled live streams. So today on the 4th, we're having our cosmic forecast. Our new moon live stream will be on the 9th. Our eclipse live stream will be on the 22nd. And then on the last day of the month, we're going to have a frequency rabbit hole where Claire and Sharon and I are going to dive deep, very, very, very deep into the realm of frequencies and the Schumann resonance and all so many tangents. So definitely be there for that. And the green ones are our major starseed alignments with planetary bodies that are not the moon. The ones at the bottom, on the bottom row, you see Cygnus, the Pleiades, Orion, and Andromeda. Those are ones that are either happening over an extended period of time or all month. So those are the key players this month: Cygnus, the Pleiades, Orion, and Andromeda. Our sun conjuncts the Pleiades on the 20th for its yearly alignment. And that is the main starseed activation this month, besides alignments to Atlantis and Hecate, which we will talk about, in the Supergalactic Center, which we'll talk about when we get into the chart. So let's get into the chart. All right. I'm going to go ahead and drink some of this. I have some notes here, but I'll probably just go through. And we'll touch on them as we go. Okay. All right, I got to go over to the software, so I'm not going to have the chat in front of me anymore. Okay, so we're going to go to yesterday. On the 2nd, if you guys are kind of looking retroactively to kind of see what's happened this month in the first couple of days, we started with the moon aligning with Lyra. So a lot of the like psychic starseed, like intuitive hits were coming from like crisscrossy timelines of cataclysm and destruction in early civilizations. Lyra very, very, very much holds the same sort of like templates as Atlantis does, and we're kind of where we are right now. I really feel these are storylines that our soul blueprints have repeated time and time again. And something is happening right now to many of us where we are, for whatever reason, remembering these things when before we couldn't. And it's not that like someone told us, well, yes, we've read things and found things, but a lot has just come through. They're like clear, cognizant downloads of information that you're just like, okay, so this happened and somehow I know about it. And whenever Lyra is activated, it kind of has a lot of like deja vu energy about it, where you might find yourself repeating things that are giving you opportunities to do something different and kind of like split that timeline and take a different parallel route other than one that we've done before and are repeating and like a karmic pattern. These Lyra alignments through the 1st to the 3rd yesterday with the moon were happening while Mercury was coming into a trine with Pluto retrograde. So Mercury here coming into a trine with Pluto, which is retrograde over at the ending degrees of Capricorn. It just went retrograde the day after our Scorpio moon. So we had our Scorpio supermoon, the first supermoon of the year. I actually think all our supermoons this year happened. Okay, so we have our Scorpio full moon was our first supermoon of the year. Then we have this Taurus new moon, which is a regular new moon. Then our Sagittarius eclipse is a supermoon as well. And then I believe the only other one is Scorpio in November is a supermoon. And then also the Sag eclipse in December is our other supermoon. So these are like the key players this whole year. This is where these lunar activations are really asking us to focus on. And we had that supermoon on the 26th, and then on the 27th of last month, Pluto stationed retrograde. And Mercury, just here in the beginning degrees of, he went there on the 3rd, the next day. So it was when he was at the ending degrees of Capricorn that he trined Pluto right before he enters his home side of Gemini, where he'll be for a little while before stationing retrograde himself. But our hopefully slightly grounded consciousness while in Taurus, even though we had a lot of like these Uranus activations, the sun was right on top of Uranus at the time, which is kind of erratic and chaotic and unexpected and electric. Hopefully at some point something came through for us when it came to the work that we're going to have to be doing in this retrograde season. So we have Pluto retrograde, we have Mercury going retrograde later this month, and then we have Saturn going retrograde as well. So we're really working on like 3 areas of our life simultaneously. And when these planets connect, especially through trines, the energy flows kind of like, I always like to use the metaphor of like a baton race or relay, where you are relaying the like information or the work that you've done to each other, because like I know we like to like look at it as like, oh, here's Pluto, and oh, here's Capricorn, and oh, here's the 12th house, and it's like all these pieces. It's like, oh, now Pluto's in my 12th house. It's like, yeah, well, Pluto's in your 12th house while another planet is doing something else, and these things all tie together. And when these planets, particularly the ones that are doing the work, that are a focus right now, which the retrograde ones very much are, they are so much doing the work that they are physically going backwards just so that they can go forwards again over an area they've already worked on, because that area is a focus. And so we're simultaneously doing these in multiple areas of our life, and when these planets connect, things come through. So over the past couple of days, things were probably coming through for you that you're going to be needed later when Mercury starts working through here, and also that you're already a focus on in the area of your life that's ruled by Capricorn. This area is probably very, you probably already have a very good idea of what's going on here. We had Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, all conjuncting throughout 2020, throughout this area. Pluto has been here for an extremely long time, and this area has very much been a focus. And this is like the tail end of the transformation. Something is being fully deconstructed so that it can be reborn so it can be reborn. And this is the last retrograde cycle before Pluto makes its final exact conjunction to America's natal Pluto, which is just over here at 27 degrees. So simultaneously as we are doing this within, we're also seeing it happen on the world stage, particularly surrounding around America. You guys have heard me talk a lot about this, so I'm not going to get too far into it here, but we can expect to see a lot happening throughout eclipse season when it comes to much of this storyline. And Pluto retrograde as well. When we see a lot of the connections to the retrogrades throughout this month and the nodes, we're going to be having a lot of information come through, particularly when we get into our Gemini solar eclipse, which is next month. So much information is going to be coming through. But we're going to go ahead and move on because I could just talk forever. Okay, so I actually have a couple of notes on yesterday because a lot of stuff went down. So we had Mercury square Jupiter the same time that the Sun squared Saturn and Mercury entered Gemini. So Mercury square Jupiter, our Sun square Saturn, and Mercury entering its home sign of Gemini. So normally you would think this would be like challenging aspects. You see even just the coloring of the chart, the square aspects, you always see like, oh, that's a conflict of energy. They're squaring off with each other. They're at odds. And it's just not always the case. It's not always true. And if you lean into these energies properly, or you kind of know what to expect, you can like use the energy. Okay, so like I was watching Rick's cosmic interview with this herbalist astrologer last night, and they were talking about how astrologers, they always are like, oh, this Uranus transit's coming, like don't do anything because something crazy is going to happen. And then he said the same sort of thing that I always say, and it's like, whoa, this energy is coming, and you can either know it's coming, take it, use it for its higher octave, or you can act like it's not there and it will just manifest however the fuck it wants. So the energy that we have going on right now can kind of manifest a multitude of ways, and then also the energy is complementary to each other, which kind of helps keep it a little bit grounded. So for example, Mercury square Jupiter is actually extremely optimistic, beneficial, joyous transit, where we can get a lot of work done and have like huge, big ideas that can often tend to go a little bit overboard because of like the Jupiterian energy. However, we simultaneously have our Sun square Saturn, which really helps us to focus on the responsibilities and the duties. I got a lot of work done yesterday, like so much. And Eddie cleaned the house the day before. Well, he did the dishes and like all the laundry and like a lot of the stuff that we weren't able to do before. And we weren't jerks about it either. We just did our work, and it's not like, oh my gosh, the house is such a disaster that we're going to fight the whole time we get it clean. It just happened, and it happened in more of like an optimistic way. While simultaneously that energy can kind of have you focusing on your boundaries when it comes to others. So like your duties, Saturn, to yourself, the Sun, versus others, which these planets are falling in Aquarius, which is the sign of others. And you kind of have this conflict between like what it is that you need to do for yourself versus what it is that you know you have to do for others, and trying to find that like balanced middle ground. That was kind of the energy of yesterday. I wrote here, I went over all that. I wrote here that these transits are triggering the Saturn Uranus square, the Saturn Uranus square that we are experiencing throughout 2020. So it'll be exact, 2021. It'll be exact again in June and in December. Uranus was just transited by all these planets, and right now it is activating that same energy. So simultaneously we're seeing things play out on the world stage where it's boundaries between like this hive mind complex, like group think that is the Uranus energy and the, not the Uranus energy, the Aquarius energy, while also trying to find sovereignty within the body. So we're having this conflicting desire when it comes in our physical reality and also in our like immediate manifestations of like the boundaries around us with our loved ones and those close to us, and also like more like bigger boundaries when it comes to like us as a collective. And then I wrote here that we're starting to enter the battlefield of the mind, where we're going to be later this month when, this planet Mercury goes retrograde and aspects start coming. But I write here that this battlefield of the mind is happening in order for us to examine a lot of our like beliefs. So we're going to be having a lunar eclipse in Sagittarius that will be preparing us for a solar eclipse next month in Gemini. We're halfway through tail end of this eclipse story that ends later this year, and it's an 18-month story that we're in the middle of, where we've been focused on the South Node is here. The South Node is in Sagittarius, so that is a lot of like purging and shifting and changing and letting go of Sagittarius energy. Sagittarius has a lot to do with our philosophical beliefs, our core beliefs around spirituality and what is truth. It has a lot to do with these like grandiose ideals that aren't necessarily based in truth. While Sagittarius is very much the truth seeker, sometimes they are just so off base. And right now everybody is focusing on where they are off base when it comes to truth, and being forced to release a lot of things that revolve around those core belief structures, very much revolving around the hierarchies of like religion and things like that, while we're having our North Node point in this area of Gemini. So this is a dual manifestation. Gemini also rules, the internet and technology as well. Mercury's over there. Simultaneously, we have Uranus stuff happening. So a lot of it is pointing us in the direction of these like technological advancements that might not necessarily be beneficial. But it's also pointing in the direction of information. So much information is coming through. I just heard in my head like the apocalypse, like I said that this Pluto retrograde is digging deep into those like hidden parts of the system, and simultaneously we're having all these solar eclipses, all these eclipses happening with the North Node in Gemini, which is the sign of information, which is just bringing it in. And these are cosmic resets. So like, it's almost like, that's why like I always say, like, you don't manifest or really try to do too much during eclipse, but pay attention to what it is your reality wants from you, because these are those reset points where we're able to take that trajectory that is faded. And right now, a lot of that is going to revolve around the absorption of vast amounts of information from a multitude of sources in order to truly decipher a new truth in like an information overload type world, which is really where we're at right now. And as a lot of these planets transit this North Node, we're going to be having so much information come through in regards to this personal story, here that's playing out in the houses that these signs rule in your chart, and also on a collective when it comes to core beliefs and what it is that we deem to be true. And I said here that Mercury in Gemini, he's home there. He's at home there. And the focus is very much going to be on the like logical analytical processes, which will shift later this month when it goes retrograde. We're going to be rethinking a lot of those so that when we have, hold on, the 10th. Oh, so Mercury will still be retrograde for that. Hold on one second. I just need to check something. June. Okay. So for the Gemini solar eclipse that is in June, Mercury will still be retrograde. So this solar eclipse is almost like a redo of our last Gemini solar eclipse, which I don't have. I wrote the dates of the last eclipse down somewhere. Oh, I think I wrote it down here. It was in December and November where our last eclipse is. So this is going to be a redo of our last eclipse season. There are videos that you can go back and watch from December and November of 2020. Atlantis was very much in play there as well. And we've had Atlantis station direct since then. So we kind of have a different viewpoint on these things. Atlantis is direct, but now Mercury is retrograde, Pluto is retrograde, Saturn is retrograde, and it's like, okay, we've had some stuff come through from other realms, and now we need to go back so that this shift that these eclipses are taking us on is taking us in the right direction. And in order to go in the right direction, Pluto, Saturn, and Mercury all need to do some stuff. And this is when we do it. This is when we start to do it. So now that I've actually made it to today, I've said a lot of what I wanted to say throughout this time. So I'm going to just come check in with the chat really quick. Hey guys, Janelle says, yes, I'm not sure why many astrologers do that. Say something is coming, but not how you can actually work with the energies. I mean, some do, but maybe others just don't see it that way. Yeah, and I think it's like, I mean, I get it from like followers too. Like I will post something and it's like, I wonder if they read the whole post or if they just read like part of it. And because then they'll post like, oh my God, everything's going to be so crazy. And I'm just like, but I just said, don't say that and do like lean into this or whatever. And so I think that people just really, really, really like to blame things on astrology. And so there are astrologers that take advantage of that with a lot of like clickbaity stuff, particularly on YouTube with like the overly dramatic like thumbnails where it's like something crazy shocking is going to happen, and then they have like the shocking title so that people click on it. And I think that it just kind of like feeds that like fear that like the planets are out to get you, and people forget that the planets are literally them, and you're just working to align with the as above so below. It's literally inside of you. So it's almost like thinking like, oh, Saturn is, that's like part of my physical vessel, part of my physical soul is attacking me. Like it just doesn't make sense. Saturn is the great teacher. He's the Lord of karma. Saturn returns are brutal, but like I was a shit show before my Saturn return. I was a hot mess, dude. I would do it again in a heartbeat, and I'd be like, turn it up to 11. I want to see how far I can go. You know what I mean? Once you go past it, once you really work with the energies, things are just different. And I just think that like people are at a different level, and a lot of people, they are using astrology for things that astrology is not for. And there's a lot of astrologers that just take advantage of that, and they just know how to get people riled up so that they're like, need them, you know? And that's why like I'm teaching you guys how to do this myself. I just had my first natal chart reading by Liz, by the way, and it was phenomenal. Oh my God, she is such a wizard. If you guys want a natal chart reading, I'm not doing them right now. definitely go see her. Her handle is Dreamweaver Astrology, and it was just so amazing. But everything I know, I taught myself, and I taught myself like the way I'm teaching you guys, because I physically can't do a bunch of readings. I don't want to, and I don't think it's beneficial. Natal chart readings, transit readings, those are cool, you know, but like if you can look at your chart and see and understand the houses and the lunations and things like that, that's when you really unlock the magic. And that's what helped me. And that's what I want to help you guys do. I want you guys to do it for yourself. Janelle says, gotta broaden the mind. They will have more fun with it. Yes, they blame a lot on the planets. Yes. And she says that astrology is being used like entertainment. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so really quick, I had a little bit more on Mercury and Gemini. I said that he's here to help us process lots of information very quickly. He's extremely good at problem solving, but he can be easily distracted. So while Mercury is first getting started before he goes retrograde, and you're trying to really take in a lot of this new information, especially if you lean in the like neurodivergent, if you lean any, like if you have any sort of like leanings toward ADHD tendencies, or you get distracted easily, I wrote here that you should lean into that Taurus sun, which will help you ground right now. Taurus, I can't point at it, but the sun right now is still at 14 degrees of Taurus. It's halfway through Taurus. We haven't got to Gemini season yet. So while Mercury will be there, Venus will be entering soon, the sun will still be in Taurus. And it's working with Saturn in Aquarius. They're square each other. Yes, they're at odds. Yes, it's causing us conflict this year, but it's also bringing structure to the change. It's also like preventing it from being like too much. Trust me, we don't want Uranus to just be able to like blow crazy right now, because we will have a technocratic takeover. Saturn is actually helping us out here on the world stage. Now it's also grounding us, like locking us down as the collective as well. Saturn transiting through Aquarius, but it's really helping with the technological advancements for now. And I said, right, to lean into Taurus. So what house is that for you? What planets do you have there? Find ways to ground so that you can use this mental energy while it's still moving in a forward fashion beneficially, so that you can take in all that you need, that you can then like decode and decipher and digest throughout the retrograde period. Okay. I've like an hour in, and we've literally gotten to today, so I need to get going. But I said a lot of the stuff I wanted to say already, so I'm really not tripping. Okay. So Okay, so today, the energy coming through, anything new coming in, was just the moon transiting over Cygnus. I always kind of attribute Cygnus to like kind of like Saturn type energies, just in the way that it tests you and gives you an opportunity to level up. So if you did any sort of like passed any sort of like karmic tests today, you were kind of like leveled up in a cosmic fashion. Also, Cygnus, I had this download come through for two different reasons. I say that Cygnus has a connection to like ancient cosmic knowledge, and it's because they say Göbekli Tepe, which is one of the oldest megalithic structures on the planet, was aligned to Cygnus at the time that it was eradicated, which is 12,000 years ago. And then there's also been a radio signal that was transmitted from the Cygnus constellation that was like cataloged by astronomers multiple times, and they're not sure where it came from. So I do believe there is intelligent life in that area. So whenever that is transited, we have that sort of energy come through, which very much is focused on testing and leveling up. At least that's how it's manifested for me. On the 6th, Venus will come into a trine with Pluto retrograde. So Pluto retrograde here in Capricorn. Where's Capricorn for you? And Venus here, right, coming up into alignment with the Pleiades. So the Pleiades is, depending on who you talk to, it's either at 29 degrees, some odd minutes of Taurus, or 0 degrees of Gemini. I can't find a straight answer online. I think it's transited. You know what? I could add a star in here and find out maybe, but I'm not going to do that right now. But it's right here. It's like literally right where this line is where the main star Alcyone of the Pleiades falls. So Venus is coming into alignment with the Pleiades right as it transits, right as it trines Pluto. I'm just looking here really quick. So yeah, I forgot to mention, so down at the bottom of the chart, these are the transits that are happening like longer throughout the month. So right now we are mid in a Mercury alignment with the Pleiades, which ends on the 6th, right as Venus comes into alignment with the Pleiades, which ends around the 12th. It's exact on the 8th. And then the sun will then align with the Pleiades from about the 18th to the 22nd and will be exact on the 27th. And when they are in alignment with the Pleiades, they're also going to be training Pluto retrograde. So Pluto retrograde. Pluto is there to help us deconstruct, transform, and get rebirth some area of our life, an area that he's been very much focused on for an extremely long time and is at the tail end of this alchemical process. And as all these planets transit the Pleiades, they're trining this point. So this energy is very much coming in to help with that alchemical process of uniting those polarities, of integrating, of transmuting, of transforming, of transcending the karmic patterns. We'll just say patterns, karmic patterns. Okay, so we're going to move on to the 8th, guys. I guess I'm not really doing like chronological time as well this month. I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but just roll with it. Okay, so on the 8th, Venus comes into a square with Jupiter the same day that it enters Gemini. So Venus enters Gemini, meaning it is in alignment with the Pleiades, and it comes into a square with Jupiter. Jupiter here at the ending degrees of, I guess it came into the square before it entered. So it comes into the square earlier in the day when it's still in Taurus. And then after coming into that exact square with Jupiter, which actually is a beneficial transit, we will get into the energy here in a second. Again, it's a square, but it's a square between Venus and Jupiter. Astrology's two benefics. So it's not like your relationships are going to blow up or anything like that. Although they can, because Jupiter blows things up. But for the most part, it's a beneficial energy. At the same time that, and then right after that, Venus will enter Gemini. So the focus on this is very much going to be on communication. Now, being that Venus is about to enter Gemini, our relationships might feel like they need space, like we might need space in our relationships, but it would be more like physical space, not necessarily like mental space, because you will have like a really strong mental connection with your loved ones around this time. I wrote here exactly what I just said, and then I wrote that is more so in like committed relationships, more like newer or not like solidified relationships around this time. It might have this energy of like wanting to seek new things or change, or have like a flaky, detached energy about them with Venus entering Gemini. But the two benefics coming into a square with each other is really great for channeling in that like positive, optimistic energy into our relationships. I just said that you can like tend to get carried away with this energy, especially when it comes to like spending money and like not thinking things through. And I wrote money and mouth because it's like Jupiter and Gemini together, Venus in Gemini square Jupiter, that is big mouth and also an inability to maybe like filter what you say. So be mindful of that, and also like just try not to go crazy spending a bunch of money too. But other than that, the energy is beneficial. It really is, especially if you lean into your relationships, but just like don't smother them. More try to like connect on the mental level. Okay. So on the 9th, from the 8th to the 11th, the moon transits Andromeda. So right as we having those like relationship energy between Venus and Jupiter, we also have the moon transiting Andromeda, which is that like cosmic twin flame celestial point that we've talked a lot about in the previous month. So I'm not going to get too far into it here, but whenever the Andromeda galaxy or the stars in the Andromeda constellation are transited, it very much triggers the twin flame collective. So you can expect to feel that from about the 8th to the 11th, around the same time that we have that Venus-Jupiter conjunction. And we also have some aspects to Chiron I'm going to touch on here in a second, which help us to work and heal with our loved ones. Okay. So on the 9th, we have our new moon live stream. And then on the 10th, Mercury will conjunct the North Node while simultaneously sextiling Saturn. Chiron, sextiling Chiron. So Mercury here at 11 degrees conjunct the North Node. And it is sextiling Chiron here at 11 degrees of Aries. So the North Node, this is that like destined pointer that we have been working on over this 18-month eclipse story. It's also the focus here right now, especially as we're entering Gemini season. It already pretty much in eclipse season. Eclipse season will be literally right around the corner after this new moon. So eclipse season will technically start on the 12th. Once we have that new moon, we'll enter eclipse season. So Mercury, the planet of consciousness, the planet of our analytical mind, the messenger of the gods, the bringer of consciousness, he comes with the message. He is not retrograde yet, and he is going to conjunct our North Node. Pay very much attention on the 10th. If you're not sure, or you are confused, or you don't know what this eclipse story has in store for you, you might not. We're in the middle of it yet. Sometimes you don't know till the end. You might have a good idea about what's manifesting for you right now. Pay attention. Pay attention. Simultaneously, wounds are going to be activated that are standing in the way. So these wounds fall in Aries. They fall in the sign of the self. We've talked so much about Chiron transiting through Aries, transiting through those like core recesses of our psyche, the things that trigger our fight or flight. These are deep core wounds, often so deep that they like reside within that like reptilian aspect of our consciousness. These wounds can span dimensions and timelines and realities. They may not even be from this current incarnation, although they probably are being as though they are in Aries, the sign of this persona, this identity. But we're going to talk about how this moon, this eclipse is also square, going to be perfectly, almost perfectly square Atlantis at the time of the eclipse. So while, yes, these are this incarnation's wounds, they have an origin point. These are repeated wounds, and many of them originated in this Atlantean timeline. So this is very much what's going to be coming up. And when Mercury conjuncts the North Node on the 10th, much is going to come through. But pay attention to whatever wounds are triggered, because those, it's a sextile, okay? We've talked a lot about how sextiles are like trines, but they require you to put in some work. They require you to put in some sort of effort in order to obtain the reward of that harmonious blue line. So a lot of it's going to have to do with the mind, and Mercury conjuncting the North Node, having that information come through, seeing the wound that needs to be integrated. Then it's going to station retrograde later that month, and much of that integration is going to be done then. And a lot of it is going to be done in that battlefield of the mind, but it's going to have to simultaneously work along with the heart and that expanded consciousness of the heart that we're going to be really tapping into once Jupiter over here enters Pisces. So on the 11th, we have our Taurus New Moon. So this new moon is actually going to be sextiling Neptune. And the same day, Mars squares Chiron and sextiles Uranus. So we have our moon here. It actually also is conjunct Black Moon Lilith. Sextiling Neptune. So this is going to have a dual manifestation. Did I write notes on this? I meant to. Okay, it's fine. It can have a dual manifestation. The sextile energy is like a harmonious energy where it's working together. Now, Neptune can either be, spiritual advancements and psychic activations, dreams. A lot could be coming through the dream realm, particularly once Jupiter enters Pisces. But it can also revolve a lot around delusions and illusions and just rose-colored glasses or complete detachment from any semblance of reality. Now, Mars, our planet of action, is actually coming up to a conjunction with Alexandria, which will be exact on the 27th, which is going to be huge when it comes to funneling in this like lost ancient knowledge. You guys know me, I love books as much as the next guy, but I'm fully aware that most of what I own, I don't agree with. And I know that there is this like just lost ancient wisdom that was, ultimately completely destroyed at the destruction of the Library of Alexandria, but was in a process of destruction for a very long time, and the last little scraps of it existed in this timeline. And we're coming up to a Mars alignment with Alexandria, and this new moon, Mars is going to be really close to it at that point, and is going to be squaring Chiron, our wounds here, which we already talked about can stem from other timelines, and is going to be sextiling Uranus, which has a lot to do with that like technological advancements in the body, changes when it comes to the body, and awakening of that ascended consciousness within the body. And I think these are the truths that this timeline remembers. It remembers that split. It remembers the fall. It remembers the ancient knowledge that existed before. And it's going to require us to really integrate a lot of these core wounds in order to access that, okay? We're coming into this, I called it up at the top of the calendar. You can see I wrote like Pleiadian, like a summary of the month. Pleiadian activations, eclipse season, super galactic magic, and lost knowledge initiation. I really look at this as like that lost knowledge initiation. And if you are aware of this, which you are now because I just told you about it, you can work to integrate this. The universe runs on intent. Just being aware that this is happening starts to integrate it into your consciousness. Now you're going to be given that opportunity for this initiation, for this remembrance. It could very much be coming through dreams, as this new moon is going to be sextiling Neptune, the planet of dreams, in Pisces, the sign of dreams. It could very much be coming through that. It could very much be coming through your physical remembrance within your body, awakening of the body, activations of the mind, or just like initiatory, like clear cognizant downloads. I really see this as like that like fire of initiation coming if you are prepared. And in order to prepare, it's going to revolve around working with these Chiron energies. He's been here for a while. We've started to see some of these wounds that reside deep within the self. We've been given a couple of opportunities to work with them. And every once in a while, we're given these other opportunities to level up. And this is another one of those. And if, like, there's wisdom in the wounds, there's magic in the shadow, that is what we need to dive into in order to reclaim true sovereignty. And this new moon is very much going to trigger that. And it's going to have a lot to do about like coming back into our physical vessel and working to align our instrument. You know, we cannot fully activate the mind or the heart here aligned with the Pleiades, or really activate this like spiritual love that Jupiter is really going to want to expand upon once it enters Pisces and comes into alignment with Neptune and really starts working off of that. We cannot really integrate all of that. We can't take the right timeline when it comes to Uranus if our physical vessel is not in alignment. And that is why they work so hard to attack it. And I think a lot of us have been shown a lot when it comes to how much our physical body is actually being attacked and how much it really does matter over the past couple months. And this is the moon where we're really going to set a lot of intentions when it comes to that. Also in regards to abundance and security and things that makes us feel safe here, that are tangible and you can touch, because Taurus has a lot to do with that as well. But a lot of it is going to require us to integrate the spiritual realm. This sextile to Neptune is very much asking us to integrate the spiritual realm in order to set the proper intentions here in the physical, which is Taurus. Okay. So on the 12th, Mercury, which is over here, pretty much still on the north node, will come into a trine with Saturn. And the sun comes into that exact sextile with Neptune that we were already talking about, is in alignment during the new moon. So Mercury on the north node, he's already seen some stuff has come through. And on the 12th, he comes into a trine with Saturn. Now Saturn, he is the Lord of Karma. He is the great teacher. He is there to give us the structure and help us do the work that we need in order to manifest what this north node is showing us, in order to integrate the information that's coming through, in order to truly learn. This has a lot to do with learning, and Saturn is there to help us like solidify it and truly like build a structure so that we can utilize the information that's coming through, and it's not just like scattered. It's not scattered, which this energy can very much tend to be. Gemini energy, trust me. I know. My 10th house is Gemini. I'm like all over the place. But it helps me be like a jack of all trades when it comes to like my purpose and my mission and things like that. But it's just like, oh my gosh, I need some structure. So I'm definitely looking forward, because all of this will be happening in my 10th house of career, of purpose. My Chiron is there, so I have a lot of wounds when it comes to that area, because it is that like mind and learning. And so I know a lot of those wounds stem from my childhood and being diagnosed with a plethora of things. But anyway, Saturn will be coming into a trine at that time, and I know that I could really work to harness his structure and his guidance and his wisdom and his ability to build a sustainable structure to move forward, to have longevity. We talked about the sun, sextile time. Okay. And the moon will transit over the Pleiades at that time. So we also have that same sort of energy coming through from the Pleiades. And this is preparing us for Jupiter, which will enter Pisces the next day on the 13th. He will be here. I'm just going to go ahead and write these dates down if you guys want or if you care. So Jupiter will enter Pisces on the 13th. He will station retrograde next month on the 20th. So he's only going to be there for a short amount of time. So this house that is governed by Pisces is going to be experiencing this like dip of these like Jupiterian gifts and expansion and growth. And then he's going to enter, because of his retrograde, he's going to enter Aquarius again in July. So he enters in on the 13th, stations retrograde on the 20th, enter on the 20th of June, and enters Aquarius again on July 28th, and then will station direct and retrograde back into Pisces on December 28th, where he will then stay. So over the rest of the year, you're going to be experiencing this Jupiter energy around that cusp that is the house that's ruled by Pisces and Aquarius in your chart. Take a moment to look and see what those houses are and write them down, particularly the one that is governed by Pisces. This is where you're really going to see a lot of expansion, growth, especially when it comes to like higher love and spiritual advancements, but also you can fall into like a huge illusionary trap when it comes to this realm as well. But for the most part, Jupiter is very beneficial, and he is really there to just like light up this area of your life, expand it, and help it grow. When he enters Pisces, the first aspects he's going to make is going to be an opposition to Atlantis, in addition to a square to Venus. The square to Venus is going to be more of a quicker transit, while the opposition to Atlantis is going to be there a little while longer. But this is really helping us to channel in the way that what came through for me when I was like writing these notes and like looking at the chart is, okay, if you've been following me for a while, you've been working with this Atlantis energy, and we all just had our Atlantis retrograde where, I mean, I see everything completely different now. So much came through for me after that, but a lot of it was more like breaking free from like old programming and like finding like sovereignty, but still being like, it's more like very much a losing of things and beliefs. And I feel that when the Jupiter enters Pisces and opposes Atlantis, it's really going to just funnel in those spiritual psychic activations from Pisces. Particularly pay attention to your dreams. If you are a dreaming type person, maybe set intentions before going to bed to try to remember your dreams. But even in your waking lives, this energy is just going to be like lighting up Atlantis, aligning with Atlantis, and just funneling in these activations, these upgrades, these initiations to this like new spiritual insights that now you are privy to because you broke free from the dogmatic programming that existed within your consciousness before that. And the square to Venus is actually very positive. So Jupiter square Venus, they are both of astrology's benefics. Jupiter. Okay, yeah. Jupiter square Venus is actually extremely beneficial. They are astrology's benefics. So this can really bring, especially with Jupiter and Pisces, just this like spiritual connection within your relationships. More of just like fun, loving, easygoing, spiritually aligning with your ideals, with your close partnerships. I wrote here, we'll have powerful spiritual insights flowing through. I'm glad I wrote that down because I totally was going to forget to say that. So this is going to help us find a balance and locate truth by finding a balance between philosophy and religion. So Jupiter is the planet that governed, well, it used to govern Pisces as well. It governed, it still very much governs Pisces because it's a dual rulership with Neptune who's there as well. But it also governs Sagittarius, and it governs our philosophical exploration and our philosophical insights and our questioning and trying to understand on more of a mental level, that mind again, back to the mind, what our reality is. While Neptune and Pisces energy is very much focused more on like the spiritual and the religious. I'm going to use the word spiritual rather than religious, but that energy as well, trying to understand on that level. And then we also have this scientific mind as well that wants to understand it on that level. Uranus and Taurus is very much channeling that scientific energy, and so is Saturn and Aquarius. And so I wrote here, and this is actually one of the core beliefs of Theosophy, which is one of the mystery schools that started in the 1800s by Helena Blavatsky. But it's the philosophy, science, and religion, the blending of the three. But like I said, I would change religion to spirituality. So philosophy, science, and spirituality, the blending of the three, the harmonizing of the three, the balancing of the three, and that is how you locate truth. And I really feel that this transit will help us to do that if we channel it properly, or we can just kind of fall into I wrote here, guru obsession or cult mentality. This Piscean energy, particularly with Jupiter there just blowing it up, particularly once it comes in transits over Neptune, it's really going to feed fears, illusions, delusions, because that's Neptune and Pisces, and Jupiter expands things, so it's definitely going to expand those. Pisces and Neptune also rule illness and things like that, so the fears around that. And that spiritual cult mentality. We'll see the cult mentality actually play out on both the spiritual and non-spiritual realm. I think I wrote here, that we'll see it over sickness and spirit. So we'll see it over the ascension process and all of that stuff. People doubling down on a lot of things that have become toxic. And then we're also going to see it in the regular Muggle world when it comes to just believing illusions and delusions and following a Hierophant type archetype, following a guru, following somebody telling you what truth is rather than finding it for yourself. So this manifestation can go in two different ways. You can either really dive in and work to weave together, like I said, philosophical exploration, spirituality, and science, or you can lean very deeply into the illusion of the spiritual realm. But I said, for the most part, while it can bring fears and illusions and all of that, for the most part, it's going to activate major psychic visions, that higher aspect of love. Neptune is the higher aspect of Venus. It's that unconditional love. Beyond that of romantic love, and it's more just cosmic love for everything and everyone. and also abundance, joy, and just like general optimism. It's a great transit. You really want to look and see where the house is that Jupiter is entering, where Pisces is, because it's just going to be expanded very much for you. So I don't normally write the moon's transits on our calendar, but I did note here that while Jupiter enters Pisces on the 13th, the moon enters Cancer on the 14th. And the reason I noted that is because the moon is at home in Cancer. The Cancer governs the moon. And while Jupiter is entering the like spiritual energy of Pisces, our moon, our intuition, our feminine intuition, and our emotions as well are very much going to be entering the ocean that is Cancer. And we're going to be very psychically attuned at this time, while simultaneously Orion is being transited as well, right before Sirius. So we're going to be having the moon transit over Orion before it enters Sirius, while having all these psychic activations coming from Jupiter in Pisces and the moon in Cancer. So what does that mean? When Orion is transited, it very much activates what I call, I didn't coin it, it's ancient mythology, the gate of man. I believe that Orion is the gate of man because it houses a stellar nursery where it is believed that all of the matter in our universe, our solar system, not our universe, our solar system, our physical body here on Earth, originated, like its last incarnation before the Big Bang made everything or whatever. The matter that made up our star, our planets, and everything in our solar system is said by scientists to have originated most likely in the Orion Nebula. And it's also said that Orion very much symbolizes that like split in duality and the like consciousness of like man. And it opposes in the sky the galactic center, which falls in Ophiuchus, which is said to be the gate of the gods. And that soul is traveling from the split of duality back to the unity that's found at the gate of the gods. And if you look at the mythology, it's actually quite interesting. If you look at the mythology of Orion and the Pleiades in Greek mythology, Orion is said to be actually chasing the Pleiades, the seven sisters, which are the daughters of Atlas, which ties again into Atlantis. I'm not going to get too far into that now since we're already halfway through the month and I could talk about that forever. But pretty much the Pleiades were placed up in the stars to protect them from Orion, who, of course, in most Greek myths is trying to rape them because that's just what they did all the time. And so the daughters of Atlas, the Pleiades, were placed in the sky for their own protection. So if you look at the energy of Pleiadian consciousness, I look at it as, they have ascended to the sky and are now protected from that like split of the Orion consciousness of duality, and they've ascended beyond it. They've ascended to the stars. If you look at fixed star astrology, the stars of the Pleiades are actually said to resonate with like the archetype of like mourning. It's actually they're quite sad stars that are said to really activate a lot of like emotions and just like processing of like mourning, and that's the like main energy that they carry in like fixed star astrology. And I feel that they mourn, I think they like mourn for us, and I think it's because they've been there before and they know where we're at and they understand how how hard it is to be like stuck in this battle in this dualistic realm. And well, I say they, I don't mean like the entities. I feel like that like consciousness, the Pleiadian consciousness of those stars that have been placed up in the sky to help guide us. And I really feel that if we like align with that energy this month, it'll really help us to integrate this heart and mind, this spiritual aspect, and this mental aspect that's going to be highlighted throughout this month. So when Orion is activated, we're really going to be feeling the split, and we're going to be shown where we fall on one side or the other. The moon will then transit over Sirius on the 15th. Sirius falls here right at like 14 degrees. So when we're having these Alexandria activations with Mars, which will be exact on the 27th, it's falling right on Sirius. They're falling in alignment with Sirius. If you guys have followed me for a while, you know I always say Sirius is the star of initiation. Every time Sirius is activated, it just like pulls one more layer away from like your programming. It fucking helps you see. If you align with it, it really helps like open your third eye and help you see just a little bit more than you could before. The lunar transits are a little bit less activating as the solar transits, which will really help light us up and help us see. And this Mars activation is, like I said, it's that initiation. And we have Alexandria, Mars, and Sirius all aligning, and I really am just seeing it as like an initiation of ancient knowledge coming through around this time. Very much so. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together that Sirius was there until right now. That's super significant. So, I guess I did, because I wrote it right here on the 16th, where the moon is going to transit over both Sirius and Andromeda. So the weekend of like the 15th through the 16th, right after Jupiter enters Pisces, the moon enters Cancer, a lot is going to be coming through around that month. I need to like write that on here. Okay, which is just preparing us for what is going to be happening on the 17th. So on the 17th, Hecate, we've talked a lot about that asteroid as well. Hecate is the goddess of witchcraft and magic. And we've talked about how she is the only one of the gods of mythology that has dominion over all realms. Zeus only has dominion over the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the underworld. But Hecate, who conveniently enough they barely ever talk of, probably because the power she holds dominion over all of them and can go pretty much anywhere and do whatever she wants. And she very much channels that like sovereign. She also doesn't really want much from you. I find it so funny when people like invoke her and like offer her all these offerings. She's just never given me the vibe she really wants anything from you other than you to find yourself. And she will definitely help guide you to it. She's going to require you to do some work, but the work will unlock so much magic. And on the 17th, Hecate, so this is actually going to be energy we're going to be feeling for like the whole mid-month, but it will be exact on the 17th where Hecate comes into an exact opposition with the super galactic center. And I just called that up at the top, super galactic magic. I don't know what's going to come through. I don't make the rules. I only see the patterns. And what I see here is that our biggest cosmic point of activation, the super galactic center, is going to be in alignment with the sovereign entity of Hecate, the goddess of magic itself, really activating us right after Jupiter enters Pisces, the moon enters Cancer. We're working with Sirius and Alexandria and having this initiation. Shit is going to be magical as fuck, you guys. Like, I don't know what's going to be going on around this time, but I am looking forward to it. I know that it's going to require some transformation because on the same day that we have Hecate opposing the super galactic center, we have our sun trining Pluto retrograde. So our sun is going to be shown a lot of what needs to take place, and a lot of what this is about. We're going to have to do some sort of transforming, some sort of let going, some sort of integrating, transmuting, redoing, probably re-transforming something we've already started to transform, but something's going to be coming through the sun at that time. And Venus is going to be conjuncting the North Node, which will then also sextile Chiron. So it's going to revolve around our relationships, our direction that we're moving, the wounds we're going to have to integrate in order to get there, and the transformation that's going to have to occur for all of that to happen simultaneously. But we have like literal galactic magic flowing through the vastness of like the most cosmic point we have. The supergalactic center, M87, is the black hole that the Milky Way, Andromeda, and like, I used to say 27 other galaxies, but they've found more. I think it's like over 52 or something. It's like a lot. And then some of those galaxies have little satellite galaxies around them as well. All rotate around this point. This is our anchor point to that like vast cosmic consciousness, like the farthest as I think we can truly expand here in this incarnation. And if we can align with that point, our inner magic, the lunar energy, the fixed star energy, if we can integrate all of those together, then we'd really become co-creators of this matrix that we are already in. We can't fully break away from, and we're here. But we can unlock its secrets and we can start to change it into something better. And this is when a lot of our like wizard capabilities are going to be coming through, particularly from the 13th to, I would say, oh my God, the sun conjuncts the Pleiades on the 17th. The sun squares Jupiter on the 21st. Okay, so I would say from the 13th to the 22nd is going to be really, really big. And then that's prepping us for the retrogrades that we're going to go into. So from the 13th to the 22nd is when so much stuff is going to be flowing in. Major activations, initiations, energy flowing through, psychic activations. Pay attention to your dreams. Much will be activating you. And then some retrogrades start flowing through for us to be able to integrate all that we've been shown. It's going to be a Saturn retrograde, so it's going to revolve us taking responsibility and doing a lot of the work in order to truly unlock what is ready to come through for us. Okay, so where are we at? Okay, we talked about Venus is going to be sextiling Chiron around that time. So that's going to be exact on the 18th. We also have the moon transiting Draco at that time, so we're not going to get out of it without some shadow work. Venus trines Saturn exact on the 19th. So we're going to be working on the wound integration and the taking the action and the responsibility and doing the work in order to truly process these fucking wounds and unlock the wisdom that they hold. Chiron is the wounded healer. He has the wound, but he also has the medicine and the magic and the wisdom. I fucking love Chiron's shit. We can't get away from our wounds. We just can't. They're there. They're always eating at us. They're not going to go away. You really can't hide from them. People hide from Chiron transits like they're, I don't know. I can't think of something, a good metaphor, but they hide from them. And I'm just like, give me all the magic. The wounds have been haunting me my whole life. I'm aware of a lot of them. And if I'm given the opportunity with a trine to Saturn and sextiles to Chiron in order to integrate and really step into this like North Node energy, I'm going to jump on it. It might be ugly. It might be not be pretty. We might have to process a lot. There might be a lot of crying. But I got distracted by this. Hold on. But it has a lot of wisdom, an inherent wisdom, and so much magic. And these wounds, you become just like that teacher and that guiding light for others to be able to then process that same wound. So on the 20th, our sun will come into its exact alignment with the Pleiades. It will also enter Gemini on that day, the same day that the moon transits over Atlantis. So the Atlantis energy is something we've been feeling. We've been feeling it since our last eclipse season, which was also in a square to Atlantis. We've been feeling it since I pretty much found out about this asteroid and integrated it into my chart, and everything immediately made so much more sense. But it's because that asteroid's literally right on my sun. So whenever I can look at it from, I wish I knew more about my Atlantis incarnation. I'm going to have to do some sort of like past life regressions, but we've been working through it a lot. We can see the parallels. We already knew we were in a karmic patterning, and particularly here in America, coming up with this Pluto return, a lot of what we're repeating stems from this time. And the moon transiting over Atlantis, the same day that the sun conjuncts the Pleiades, is really funneling in the moon emotions, a lot of those past life emotions. Also, it's going to have intuitive hits as well, but they're going to be felt more on an emotional level. The same time that our sun comes into so our current solar consciousness comes into alignment with that Pleiadian consciousness, and it can truly funnel in the wisdom that it holds from any sort of lessons or karmic patterns that we're currently working through, that energy has already processed or understood or ascended beyond. So pay attention around the 20th, very much so. Anything you're feeling is probably going to be stemming from past timelines, and anything coming in is there to help us break free so these things do not repeat. The sun will then square Jupiter on the next day, before Mercury squares Neptune on the 22nd. So the sun is going to be, let me see here if I had any notes. We kind of talked about all that. So the sun here in Gemini is going to be very much taking in all this information that we've been talking about. Really working to like process information from so many different sources to be able to like truly dissect and understand both sides and find truth in the middle. I think I wrote that. It will help us to see the other side and meet in the middle. Yeah. And we're learning and adapting to a lot very much right now. Now, the square to Jupiter is going to help us when it comes to like taking action. It's actually a really useful transit. I really think that like the red lines do astrology a disservice. I almost want to change them, but my brain just doesn't understand any other color now that I've done it like this for so long. Because I think the red like turns you off. You think like that they're at odds. But the sun square Jupiter is definitely a beneficial transit. It gives us the energy that we need to kind of like take that step forward. Sorry, I pointed at Saturn, but Jupiter over here. It gives us the opportunity we need to take that step forward. A lot of this is going to revolve around integrating spiritual concepts into the analytical mind and finding that balance. I wrote here that it's a useful energy to help you get ahead and take action, but we can tend to take on too much. Jupiter does not know when to stop. That's where Saturn helps. Saturn helps give structure to Jupiter's expansion. They were really close together here for a while in Aquarius, and we were growing while simultaneously building structure, growing structure, and now their orbs have kind of widened, and Jupiter's kind of running with it. And it's running in that like vast, intangible spiritual realm beyond the veil that is Pisces. And you can tend to get carried away. We have Mercury squaring Neptune the next day. So Mercury here square Neptune also in Pisces. And this can tend to bring confusion and misunderstanding when it comes to communication, which we're about to enter into Mercury retrograde the week later. So it's kind of going to bring that energy a little bit sooner. I wrote here that it can bring illusions, fears to the surface in order to be processed or in order to consume. I also wrote that it will activate the dream realm and the magical realm, as well as spiritual delusions and psychic insights. It's kind of like squirting, no biting. It's kind of like that multiple manifestations that I always talk about, which road you're going to take. Well, probably going to be oscillating between the two, and just continue to check yourself and know that you're not being consumed by, like I said here, rose-colored glasses, falling into like naivete, a lot of confusion, misunderstanding, secrets will be coming to the surface, but the focus on the spiritual realm will be very heightened, and any sort of like spiritual insights or like downloads that have been like accumulating will start to click around this time, and any sort of like spiritual study or practice can very much like, you can advance very far in that area of your life during this time. I said that the Sun square Jupiter on the 21st can bring a kind of, I said here, go big or go home. And I said you went home because you got burnt out. So like I said, I wrote here, go big and go home. And it's, you went home because you burnt out. So try not to do too much, or you aren't going to be able to truly integrate this energy and really harness the useful transit that is the Sun square Jupiter. That energy that I said that helps you get ahead. If you try to get too far ahead without building that like Saturnian structure, you're just going to burn out and everything will be lost. So make sure that you're taking advanced steps, but you're not have this like grandiose idea of what the end result is going to be in this time period that you have leading up to this retrograde. Be realistic, which is going to be so freaking hard for these planets, okay? It's going to be hard. So keep that in mind, that it's going to be hard, and try to bring a little reality in when you can. Okay, so that's on the 21st and the 22nd. Sorry guys, I'm like all over the place. And we also will have the moon transiting over the supergalactic center on the 22nd. So this is all preparing us for Saturn retrograde, which starts on the 23rd in Aquarius. Saturn will station retrograde at 13 degrees of Aquarius on the 23rd and will be retrograde until October 11th. During this retrograde cycle, Saturn will be in a square to Uranus, in a trine to the North Node, and in a sextile to Chiron. So what does this mean? This is the Saturn-Uranus square that we have been feeling throughout all of 2021, and we will continue to feel. We've been talking about this. This is the undercurrent of the year. The push and pull between new and old, structure, liberation, technological advancements, awakening, the body, and the collective. And the system. Those are the energies that are, Jesus Christ. Those are the energies that are all in play. It's going to be activating that square while simultaneously trining the North Node. So this Saturn, the teacher, our structure, the leader that's there to help us build a foundation so we can truly bring longevity to what it is that this North Node is illuminating for us, this new trajectory, is going to be in a trine with that throughout this whole retrograde. So all this work is very much going to be pointed in that direction. This is also going to revolve very heavily around whatever it was that was implemented at the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, which was on December 21st at the end of last year. Stuff was initiated, and this retrograde is going to be going back over a little bit of time to help solidify that a little bit more. We didn't do enough work. We didn't take enough responsibility. We need to focus more on our duties and the structure, and Saturn is very much there to help us do that. While simultaneously he's going to be sextiling Chiron. So it's making one of those working triangles with Saturn in Aquarius, Chiron in Aries, the sign of the self, and this north node here in Gemini that is symbolic of the eclipses that we are in the middle of. So Saturn is here to help us simultaneously work with these wounds that are standing in the way. So we're processing wounds, taking responsibility for them, taking accountability for them, leveling up. It's like a little mini Saturn return for everybody. When Saturn goes retrograde, he's like, okay, this and this and this wasn't working. All I want for you is to step into your purpose. I wrote here, Saturn rules the 10th house of purpose. Saturn rules what we came here to do, and that's all he wants for us. So anything he takes away from you, anything he tells you is no longer for you anymore, is because it's no longer fucking for you anymore, and it's standing in the way of what it is you came here to do. So lean in. This is going to revolve heavily around integrating these wounds here so that we can step into this and do the work that it takes in order to do all of that. Once that is initiated, the moon, so when that's all being initiated, the moon is actually going to be transiting over Arcturus. So while we have all these planets in Gemini, very mental, Mercury has not gone retrograde yet, so a lot of these mental insights are really flowing through. We also have the moon transiting over, well, earlier in the day. This is 8:40 p.m. Earlier in the day, the moon will have transited over Arcturus here at like 24, 26 degrees of Libra. And Arcturus is very, very, very much a mental star location. Its energy is very much focused on like searching and finding truth and understanding the intricacies of our reality, whether it be sacred geometry, pattern recognition, things like that. So anything coming through in that regard around that time will probably hold insights for what it is that this whole process is going to entail from you. So pay attention and take note, because that is the star that's activated the same day that Saturn stations retrograde. So it should hold some insights for you. On the 25th, the moon will transit over Serpens, which is the serpent that is Ophiuchus's serpent, the serpent in the grasp of Ophiuchus. So it simultaneously represents like our awakening and our destruction, our magic and our shadow, and the diving in and reclaiming of both. So keep that in mind around the 25th. On the 26th, we have our, let me just see if there's anything else I wanted to say about Saturn retrograde. I said it, those of you who have your Saturn in Aquarius, this is like, okay, you've been doing 13 degrees of work since Saturn entered Aquarius. You're about halfway through your Saturn return. He is going to retrograde back over this area, and then he's going to move forward, and you will have like had like a mini like leveling up session where some part of this process will have been behind you, and you would have already started to reclaim some of your like authority and sovereignty moving forward to this next step, this next initiation that Saturn has in store for you. I also said here that this Saturn retrograde can very much bring up issues around authority, around teachers as well, and karma. But it's here to help us build shit in the 3D, physical shit, to help us achieve our purpose, what we came here to do. We need physical, tangible structure, and Saturn is here to help us do it. And then I just wrote here, where is Aquarius for you? Where does Aquarius fall for you? What house? This is what the house that is very much going to be a focus by this retrograde. Okay, on the 26th, we have our Sagittarius lunar eclipse, and eclipse season is very much on and cracking at this point. This eclipse, this Sagittarius eclipse, falls here in Sagittarius, opposite the moon. What degrees is it at exactly? Where's my moon? Oh, here. Okay, so it falls exactly at 5 degrees. It'll be at 5 degrees on the 26th. And it falls in a square to Atlantis, just like the last eclipse season did, except for this time Atlantis has gone retrograde, stationed direct, and now we can see something we couldn't before. So the energy coming in is more awakened. It's more illuminated. It will also be in a trine to Chiron, who's been doing a lot of work and hopefully has unlocked some wisdom to bestow upon it. This trine is beneficial. It's really helping us to work through these and break free from this programming. And it'll also be in a trine with Hecate and Chiron. So the magic in the wounds. We're unlocking the magic in the wounds so that we can step into this North Node energy by letting go of some stuff from this South Node energy, so that we can take a different trajectory. Atlantis is like, you need to do something different. Squares are just like triggers that trigger needed action. They're not bad. And right now, the square that's triggering that needed action is coming from Atlantis. It's like that nipping at our heels. Like, do you remember? We've been here before. Do something different. You need to integrate this wound, and you need to unlock this magic so that you can step into this timeline, break free from this stagnant beliefs, and seek truth by looking at both sides and integrating those twins into one, the gate of man into the gate of the gods. But right now, we can't truly access this before we really work to integrate what this gate of man is really about. We need to truly understand our reality, and in order to do that, we need to take in a lot of information. And this Gemini energy is very much here to help us do that. And then integrate it. We're taking it in pre-retrograde. So we're taking it in all through Gemini season, all through the 29th, which is when Mercury stations retrograde. Then we're really working on integrating them all. And then Gemini eclipse that falls next month is really about integrating a lot that what we have been bringing through over this eclipse story. Okay. And on the 26th, we have the moon transiting over Ophiuchus and the Great Attractor, which I always forget to talk about, which is so funny because my Saturn aligns with it. And also Alexandria, my Saturn is right here where this moon is at 15 degrees, aligned with Alexandria and the Great Attractor. And the Great Attractor is this like anomalous part of space that astronomers still do not fully understand, but it is believed to be dark matter and dark energy. It is that like cosmic void that is believed to help manifest things into reality, or just is really beyond our comprehension at this time. And at the same time as this lunation, it's going to be aligned with the Great Attractor. So the Sagittarius eclipse will align with the Great Attractor, will square Atlantis, and trine Chiron and Hecate. So we're really funneling things in from stuff we can't even fathom with our human mind, but it is very much there to help us understand the whole. So pay attention. It should be interesting. I'll have a lot more to say about that when we get to the lunations. On the 27th, it's earlier in the day. I guess we can find out what time. Mars will conjunct Alexandria. It'll be exact sometime around 10 o'clock on the 26th. Oh, it's earlier on the 26th is technically when it's exact. I wrote the 27th. So it's like late at night on the 26th into the 27th. Mars will be exactly conjunct Alexandria, aligned with 15, it's about 5 degrees away from Sirius at the time that it's exact. And I really am going to be extremely interested to see what comes through around this time. Venus will also be squaring Neptune, which is that like planet of dreams and psychic activation. So much might be coming through dreams this month. I really feel that a lot. And also through our relationships. Venus will be squaring Neptune. Pay attention to like what your loved ones say. They can be our biggest oracles. People will just say things and you'll be like, oh my God, and that will be the thing you need to make some sort of like connection. So pay attention to the spiritual insights that come from your loved ones around this time. Especially because, okay, so we have Venus square Neptune on the 27th is exact. On the 28th, it's exactly conjunct Mercury right before Mercury stations retrograde in Gemini. So Mercury stations retrograde while conjunct Venus, and Venus is square Neptune. Okay, so that brings us to the 29th. Mercury will station retrograde at 24 degrees of Gemini, actually like in the middle of Orion's belt. I think that's aligned with Alnitak, the belt star. Mintaka is 22, so yeah, I think it's Alnitak. And conjunct Venus and square Neptune. So I have a little bit of notes on this. We'll just go ahead and dive into that really quick. This is going to have a lot to do with communication in relationships. So it could have like a dual manifestation. So especially when Mercury is stationed, it's kind of like standing still, and then it'll be retreating inward. So to redo, reassess, reconfigure something along our mind, something in our mental battlefield. And being as when it stations Venus will be right in alignment with it, square Neptune, which has a lot to do with relationships, spiritual love, as well as illusions around that. It will have a lot to do with communication or relationships. Now, this will have a dual manifestations. It'll either like trigger a lot of fears and secrets to come to the surface in order to process, or you could just very much dive into like the romantic energy of this like Venus square Neptune, which is beneficial. Venus square Neptune is actually a really good transit. It's not bad at all. It can make us a little like unrealistic. I wrote here, it can be extremely romantic, but you can get pulled into like a false reality. So just try to stay realistic if you want to have a good time. That's literally what I wrote here. Try to stay realistic if you want to have a good time. Now the retrograde, on the other hand, will probably trigger a lot of illusions, particularly around the spiritual realm for us here. I don't know what it's going to do to the muggles. I don't know. For them, it's going to bring up a lot of fears and secrets and illusions and really feed on that energy, particularly in the mind. But for us, it's going to bring up a lot of these like spiritual illusions that we were not aware of before, that we're ready to take new information in and reassess them. Your immediate relationships, this does not have to be romantic. These could be anybody you know. Will have information to share with you that might square off with your spiritual ideals, or like what it is, your delusions around reality, your false reality. We all live in one. So be prepared to question it. Be prepared to question it. This Mercury retrograde is really here to help us question it. So if people come with a different viewpoint than you, take in all the information and assess the situation so you can see both sides of it and meet in the middle. I said here, but be careful. A lot of people in the spiritual realm are going to be sucked deeper into the cult mentality. And then I wrote here, they're going to be feeding off of both the sickness, so the pandemic, and the spiritual delusions. Those are going to be the two paths that people really fall into. And we need to find a middle ground between the two, where we're taking in all kinds of information and really finding truth amongst the chaos. And really the only sign that can truly take it all in and see all sides of it and maybe come to like a logical conclusion is Gemini. And the solar eclipse next month will be when a lot comes through. Mercury will still be retrograde though, so I don't think we're truly going to understand for a while. Take it all in, try to digest it, work to integrate a lot of these wounds, unlock this magic. And once eclipse season's over, we'll be kind of out of this like time warp, hopefully have been initiated into a whole new level of something else, and then we'll have some new stuff to work through. But I think that's all I got for you guys. What else we got? So Lyra will be activated during this time. So right when Mercury is stationing retrograde, what do I write here? Right when Mercury is stationing retrograde, the moon will be aligned with Lyra. So a lot of the information coming through, in order for us to process and break free from illusions and seek some sort of truth between the spiritual and the logical realm, will stem from past timelines yet again, just like our eclipse does, squaring Atlantis. We have a lot of stuff coming through this month when it comes to Lyra. The month starts and pretty much ends with Lyra. We move into Cygnus on the 31st, which is again that like test. Can you level up? It kind of will depend on how we address these Atlantis Lyra timelines that are coming up and really triggering these wounds within us. Are we going to break free? Are we going to integrate? Are we going to unlock? Or are we going to fall victim to some sort of like false reality? That's kind of where we're at. And then on the 31st, we have our frequency rabbit hole dive. So I'm hoping that all of this really helps me take in all the information and map out something that makes sense for you guys, because we've got a lot. But I have multiple minds on it right now. I appreciate you ladies so much, Claire and Sharon. We're just in a whole nother world. All right, so everybody is saying a bunch of stuff over here. I have a couple of cards I pulled, guys, that I'm just going to read really quick. But other than that, I'm good. If you have any questions about the month, you can throw it in the chat. I know I went off on a whole bunch of tangents and didn't really do linear time, but whatever. Janelle's saying she's excited for the 17th and much more. I will intend super galactic magic all day and all week. Upgrade me. Yeah, and I'm just going to warn you guys that especially once we enter like eclipse season and some of this other stuff, like the posts you're going to be seeing online are not going to be as like positive, like, oh, integrate, like it's not going to be like this. It's going to be a lot of fear mongering, a lot of like taking away your power and telling you what's going to happen and not really giving you the choice to take a higher manifestation. Don't let them do that. I love retrogrades. My chart is ruled by Mercury. I have Virgo rising. It's said that the planet that rules your first house is your chart ruler, your horoscope ruler, and has a lot to do with like the self. And so mine is Mercury. So whenever Mercury goes retrograde, I have lots of computer issues and stuff happens, yes, but whatever trajectory I'm at after that is just like, okay, well, I see why all that happened. Like, it's way better now. And the same thing is going to be with all these other retrogrades. I look at retrogrades so different now, and I really want to help everybody to do that as well. Okay, where's my... I have like the hiccups so bad. She says, the muggles. Okay, so I pulled some cards. I pulled an archetype card, and then I pulled 2 little cards for a little bit of wisdom. So this we're just going to go ahead and read out of the book. So this is the archetype Nectar. Janelle says she loves retrogrades too. I see them totally different. I feel they've just made things better. Yeah, it's just better. And you know, I have one planet retrograde in my chart. It's my Jupiter. My Jupiter is retrograde in Aries, aligned with the Andromeda vertex. And I do tend to like sometimes lose optimism. Jupiter retrograde, you're not fully in the optimistic thing, but I love my Jupiter retrograde. I really do. It helps me to be able to like retreat inward with all the like philosophical exploring I do, take it inward, integrate it, and come to some sort of conclusion within my own physical vessel. And I feel that if my Jupiter was direct, I wouldn't be able to truly internalize the philosophical teachings that I consume, because it falls in my 8th house as well. So it's very occult in nature. And find what I fucking believe and not what so-and-so tells me to believe. And I feel that my Jupiter retrograde helps me to do that. And I also love how I'm on a different schedule. So when Jupiter is retrograde and nobody's expanding, I get to. But when everybody else is expanding when it's direct, I'm like in my head and like internalizing things. But then I like blast off when it goes retrograde, because when you have a planet that's retrograde, it's kind of like flipped for you. Your cycle's a little bit different. You feel more comfortable when it's in when it is the way it is in your chart. So let's say you have Mercury retrograde in your chart, you actually feel comfortable during Mercury retrogrades when everybody else is losing their shit. So anyway, enough of that. It's seeing as though it's 11 o'clock. Okay, so this is the archetype for the month, Nectar. It says the medicine, the elixir, the garden. It very much sounds very Chiron. It's that medicine, right? And it really speaks to that like spiritual nectar as well. They don't touch on this here, but this like nectar really is that like cerebral fluid that runs through your spinal cord and activates all your chakras and your third eye so that you can become that attuned vessel to integrate all these downloads. That really is this like spiritual nectar on an esoteric level. They kind of allude to it, but they don't really mention it in this. But anyway, in Hindu mythology, there is a miraculous substance known as amaret, or nectar, that contains infinite healing power. This golden nectar, or sacred elixir, is the drink of immortality, and it's like its sister substance, soma, is known to activate subtle, intelligent forces that ease the mind, body, and spirit. Though esoteric, these images lead us to the central energy of this archetype, the sweet, potent, heavenly essence that lubricates our spirit back to life. The Nectar card calls us to identify and relish in places, practices, people, and activities that regenerate and heal. That's very Taurus. Our sun is still very much in Taurus right now, asking us to really tap into the senses. Medicine is needed, and it comes in subtle form that you may be overlooking. Seek the most sensuous, fragrant flower in the garden you have forgotten. Don't underestimate its remedy. It is said when someone has activated this substance within, it is reflected in their shimmering eyes. The nectar and the mystic cards are linked. It is the mystic who, like Krishna, turns poison into nectar. That's Chiron. And it is truth that can often serve as a potent elixir for healing. This is a little like visualization that you could do. Sense the nectar within you, dripping from the crown of the head and soothing the brain. Let it drip down the spine like sweet honey. I would kind of change that a little bit. I would like start the nectar at the root of the spine and like visualize it like moving up, even like in a spiral, because that's how I roll. I do everything with spirals. Visualize it moving all the way up to the crown and then like overflowing out the crown and then dripping down your spine. That's how I would do it. When in the light, glowing, relaxed, subtle illumination. When in the dark, fixation on fixing and an aggressive approach to healing. So this is where we need to integrate that like Neptunian, go with the flow, spiritual energy, and not the like obsessive, which is very much, this is good. So Chiron has been in Aries, which is very aggressive. And so we've very much been like focused and kind of like beating up the self when it comes to these wounds that like we haven't been able to integrate yet, but are so blatantly obvious to us. We need to like lean more into Neptune and Pisces, Jupiter and Pisces, to really flow into that healing and have it like help happen in a more organic way. And working with rather than against the retrogrades will help us to like flow into that healing and do it as it's unfolding rather than how we're trying to control it, which is very much that Aries, which is where Chiron is right now. Okay. And then I pulled a couple of other ones from this highly inappropriate deck I got called Spiritual as Fuck. 99 inspirational cards for people who fucking need some inspiration. Okay, I have been working with them. I'm not sure how I feel. Some of them I don't like, but some of them are cool. Okay, so it says, you are a product of what you believe. And then look at the fucking moon. So before we read the backs of these cards, I'm just going to touch on, so these are supposed to be like little cards you pull once a day. And then they have like a little advice on it that you take for that day. So I just kind of asked, like, what is some advice we could take for this month? It says, you are a product of what you believe. And, you know, we talked a lot about how this eclipse story is going to have a lot to do with our beliefs, taking in information, creating new beliefs and new understandings of our reality. And we have a Mercury Retrograde happening in Gemini, which is the sign of the mind. So very much going to be focused on our mind and what it is that we believe and the things that we think and how it is that it shapes our reality. So throughout this month, keep that in mind, that we're doing like an overhaul on our mind, which gets in our fucking way so much, so very much. So pay attention to all these little things that we can work through and break free from so that they're no longer blockages or challenges that stand in our way. And then look at the fucking moon. So just go, this is what it says. Just look at that thing. It's lovely as fuck, right? You're welcome. Find some time this month to go outside and stargaze. Look at the different stars. Don't, like, what I usually do, I mean, I know what all the stars now, but when I didn't, I used to go outside and I would stargaze and I would just, like, find one and I would connect with it for a while. And then I have an app called Sky View that you shine, it will tell you the name of the stars. And then I would find out later what the name of the star was and I would work with it that way. But definitely go out this month and find time to connect to the sky. We do not do this enough. Find time to connect to the moon during all her phases, because she's representative of the phases that you are going through. We tend to only kind of be like, oh, it's a new moon, it's a full moon. Well, you know, there's processes in between. And if you're connecting through intent, through your consciousness, by physically looking at it, you're working to integrate it and understand it and work in tandem with it and not be controlled by it. And then the back of the card for "You are a product of what you believe" says, if you think you're a turd, you're probably going to act like a turd. Treat yourself like a turd and accept turd treatment from others. Why the fuck would you do that? First off, you're not a turd. It's physically impossible to be a turd, a sentiment being, be a turd and a sentient being at the same time. But even if you have been kind of turdy, you believing you're golden will bring on all that golden behavior and that golden treatment. Today, just believe you're golden. If you liked it better there, go back to Turd Town tomorrow. You know, these cards make me feel like Lorelai Gilmore wrote them. The terminology, the wordage very much sounds like a Gilmore Girls episode. The like long sentences and stuff. I love it. But anyway, that's the advice for this month. Be nice to yourself. Take a look at what's going on in your mind so we can process it and break free from a lot of these chains that we chain ourselves within our own mind. Look at the fucking moon and find ways to connect to that like spiritual nectar within, and also the nectars that this reality has to offer us. So this comes from, you know, fragrances, herbs, flowers. Get outside, see some nature, find some ways to ground. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. Janelle says, LOL, laughing my ass off. Seriously, Lorelai. Yeah, dude, especially that like the turd one. Like, Lorelai wrote that. This is totally Lorelai's deck. I fucking love it. And there's a lot of cards like that. So we'll be using these for a while. I like them. It brings a little like lightheartedness to you know, everything. But I adore you so much. Oh, Claire says that she resonates. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm glad you guys resonate. You guys know I always get weird and I go off on a bunch of tips. But yeah, don't let the normal astrologers scare you. This month has a lot of magic. Eclipse season has some great stuff happening. I love eclipses. I mean, okay, I was born mid-eclipse season, so I might be kind of biased. I always live in this like time warpy area between two eclipses. That's my reality. So like I kind of like it when you guys get a sense of that. You know, people are like, oh my god, this is so weird. I'm like, it is, huh? It's every day for me. I'm gonna roll these dice really quick and see if there's anything I missed. These are from Kelly. Okay, so we got Mars in the 8th house in Taurus. So I see that as like grounding in transformation. So like 8th house is the house of like transformation. Mars is that like initiatory energy, and Taurus is that grounding energy. So we're trying to ground in all the transformation that's happening right now so that we can stay grounded and not scattered. And much change and transition is happening throughout this month. We're heading into eclipse season. Nothing is going to be the same after this. Eclipses always take us in another route. So go with the flow. Don't try to control it. Roll with the punches. We're going to all experience a huge death and rebirth and phoenix moment, and then we'll be on to the next phoenix moment because the initiations never stop. Pretty much. Have a great night, guys. I'm going to go smoke some weed. And I need to go watch this new show that Cheryl just told me about that apparently talks about a fucus or something. I don't know. I'll let you guys know after I watch it, but it sounds amazing, and I'm going to watch that tonight. I appreciate you guys. I will see you in just a couple of days on the 9th for our new moon live stream where we'll dive into this Taurus moon and the body and the sovereignty and, you know, what we got to do in order to achieve that. Set some intentions. We're going to set some good intentions. It's going to be very nice. Ooh, and I got a new song that I'm going to play for you guys from that artist that I love so much. I've shared with you guys a lot. Hi, Nikki. I didn't know you were there. Hi, guys. All right, so I will see everybody on the 9th. Have a great night, and bye.